call to order the Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, March 16th, 2023. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Kroll, please call the roll.
Commissioner Knobloch.
Here.
Commissioner Heikela is not here. Commissioner Bradley.
Here.
Commissioner Casey.
Here.
Commissioner Smolke.
Here.
Commissioner Geisler.
Here.
And Chair Schwartz.
Here. Thank you. All right, our first,
Excuse me.
you're going to be all right.
Yes, I'll make it.
First order of business this evening is to adopt our agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Geisler, second by Knobloch. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the agenda is adopted. Next, we have the approval of the minutes of our February 16th meeting.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes from the February meeting.
I'll second that.
Motion by Casey, second by Smokey. Any discussion or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the minutes are approved. Our first order of new business this evening is the revised 2023 Rules of Order and Internal Procedures and Policies. Mr. Kroll.
Yeah, so I don't have any slides for this other, as you know, we adopt our rules and ethics at the beginning of each year, and that you all had suggested wanting a work session to kind of talk through some edits, so we held that work session last month. And so what you'll see in your agenda packet, the redlined edited version is those edits that you all agreed upon in that work session, and then that final version there. So we're just asking that you would make the motion to adopt your rules and procedures and your code of ethics as revised.
All right, thank you. And Commission.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Casey.
I move that we adopt the revised rules of order and the revised internal procedures and policies for 2023.
I'll second.
Motion by Casey, second by Smokey. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And they are approved, adopted. Our next order of business is planning case 23-5, a site plan for Chase Bank at 3388 River Rapids Drive Northwest, JPMorgan Chase Bank, NA. Mr. Kroll.
Yeah, so good evening, everyone. Our first item tonight is planning case 23-5. And here the applicant is requesting site plan approval for a new Chase Bank facility. And this bank would share the site with an existing commercial building. So the address of that existing building is 3388 River Rapids Drive. It's in our regional shopping zoning district. And it's a site that's about 1.21 acres. The applicant's proposing a new 3,293 square foot Chase Bank facility and drive-through ATM. As I mentioned, it currently houses a commercial building that's home to the vitamin shop there. This proposal would redevelop a portion of the parking lot and that existing drive-through aisle on the site for the new bank and drive-through ATM. And it would share the site and be designated on the same parcel as that building. So this is just a map to kind of give you an idea. Here on the corner of Main Street and River Rapids Drive, kind of in the entryway into Riverdale Village. This is just a closer look at the existing site. So as I mentioned, Vitamin Shop is there currently. My understanding was maybe there was Krispy Kreme there before, maybe another tenant in between. And so there's this kind of really long drive-through aisle and parking lot on the site. I do have a picture in my slide deck to show The Vitamin Shop doesn't currently utilize the drive-through aisle and actually has the service window boarded up there. And so this would be kind of on this western portion of the site on some of that drive-through aisle and parking lot and redeveloping it. This is just a view, street view from Main Street looking north at the site, just to kind of give you an idea of what's existing out there today. And then again, this is kind of from the entryway on that Vitamin Shop building looking west, where the Chase Bank building is proposed. So I'll kind of go through a couple of highlights on the site plan. You all should have received an email, I think on Monday or maybe Tuesday morning, and then I had paper copies for you. I had been working with the applicant on some revisions on the site plan, and so we did receive those after the agenda was published, so I do have that addendum there with that agenda and some changes on this site plan than what was initially on the agenda that was published. So I'll kind of walk through some of those changes as well. I do have copies of the addendum here if anyone from the public wants to see those, but some of those changes do address the conditions that I had, and so our staff recommendation changes slightly to remove those conditions. So maybe I'll just start first on the pedestrian circulation on the site. So they do have sidewalk from the main entrance and then kind of this back employee entrance that does provide connection to the parking lot. And then south of the building, there is a sidewalk connection to the existing sidewalk on River Rapids Drive. So someone can be walking along Main Street or River Rapids Drive and access this site. And then it does provide a connection. There's an existing crosswalk and companion curb ramps here for pedestrian crossing at the intersection. One of the items or one of the original conditions was related to severing a pedestrian connection here on the north end of the building. My guess is it was probably provided there when the trash enclosure was here for staff access, but it would involve them walking on the road, and because there wasn't a companion ramp across the street, I know myself and our city engineer had some concerns about introducing an additional pedestrian crossing there, especially because it is so close to an existing crossing with a marked crosswalk, and depending on the time of day, there's probably a larger number of vehicles kind of coming into Riverdale Village here and maybe going around this corner a little bit faster and maybe not seeing pedestrians kind of in that mid-block crossing. So in the site plan that they revised, you see that they severed that connection there and thus removing that condition. Parking, they're providing 36 stalls on the site. Our code would require at least 11 spaces for the bank itself and then 20 spaces kind of for general retail. So here that 36 does exceed the minimum 31 that our code would require. Looking at some of the vehicle circulation on the site, they are introducing a new entry and exit into the parking lot here as well as on the other side. So they have kind of either 24 or 25 foot aisles kind of all around the parking lot for access. There is this drive-through ATM that they're proposing, and so you would access this on the south of the site. These 6 vehicles that you see parked here actually don't relate to the ATM. I had actually asked the applicant just to show, as a hypothetical, like in the future, if Vitamin Shop would leave and a new tenant would come in and maybe they were interested in opening up a drive-through, could you accommodate that on the site? And I think what this shows with some minor curb work that new tenant could do, that you could probably provide that appropriate stacking area that our code would require there. This is just an image to show, again, it's that drive-through window on the Vitamin Shop building is boarded up and not in use and isn't intended to be opened in the future. So just a hypothetical just in case. So really that's what those 6 vehicles down here on the site plan were meant to show. So individuals would kind of enter again here on the south of the site to the drive-through ATM. It's not a full teller service that you might see at some banks. It's really just kind of for someone to make a quick deposit or maybe withdrawing, $20, $40, $60 in cash and kind of on their way. And after they go to the ATM, They would exit on the east side of the site, either behind the vitamin shop building, and then the applicant is also providing an opening here on this side of the site to provide, I think, just another exit and some additional relief if another drive-through facility would open on that building. Folks that are going to the ATM can kind of more easily exit or use that bypass lane that exists in the drive-through aisle. So I'm happy to address any questions you might have on that afterwards, but just wanted to give some of that context. And then finally, the main change, the other main change on the site plan is the location of the trash enclosure. Where our city engineer had shared some concerns about their original proposal kind of north of the building. Again, maybe some concern that the garbage truck would kind of be in River Rapids Drive in the way of traffic, depending on the time of day because of the volume of traffic that's kind of going in and out of River Rapids Drive. And so we had asked the applicant to see if they could provide that trash enclosure on site and keep the garbage truck circulation on the site. And so that's where you see their new location here in the parking aisle for a garbage truck to enter and be able to back in to that dumpster and then exit the site there. And so kind of with that, staff felt like this was an okay spot to provide that on-site circulation that we asked and thus kind of removed that condition from our recommendation. This was just an aerial. I thought it was kind of helpful just to give you an idea of where that building would sit on the site as it exists today. So it's from the site plan just kind of shows the aerial where that would be. For their landscape plan, they are providing 13 overstory trees, 6 ornamental trees, 3 new evergreen trees, and I believe 227 shrubs. So that did change a little bit this because of the shifting of the location of the trash enclosure. They did move some landscaping around, so this is a newer landscape plan than maybe what was on that on the agenda today. So that exceeds the minimum that we would require, and that doesn't include the existing trees and landscaping that they're actually preserving along Main Street. I think in the county's right-of-way, there was that kind of public art piece that you saw, and they do have some landscaping in the right-of-way. And then they're preserving some trees and landscaping on River Rapids Drive on the west of the building there as well. And that also doesn't include any existing landscaping that's around the vitamin shop building. I'm not sure, I don't think there's too much out there, but there would still be that existing landscape on that side of the site as well. There was a floor plan provided by the applicant to kind of show, I believe they have a 24-hour kind of vestibule here, so you can also access an ATM inside the building or go through that drive-through. Again, they offer some different lending and financial services and things, so it's a lot of kind of conference rooms and meeting spaces for customers and for lenders. For looking at some of the elevations, they're using a mix of materials and colors. So they have chiseled limestone, kind of an ash-colored fiber cement panel, and a bark-colored fiber cement panel, some aluminum in the awnings, and then glass windows. And so this is an elevation from that parking lot and where the main entrance to the building would be. This is the elevation from Main Street, so it really is oriented towards that main corner on Main Street and River Rapids Drive. I think here you can see where some of their conference rooms are. They have this nice wall of glass and have some different facade projections and making this a more kind of prominent corner. I think that you see in some more kind of modern building design at the site. Here's the kind of the opposite elevation here that you'd see from the River Rapids Drive entryway. And then this is kind of the back of the building that you're seeing from that internal road within Riverdale Village. And there is some landscaping and stuff along this elevation as well. I just took this image. It's actually pretty similar. Maybe you've seen the new Chase Bank building in Blaine. Pretty similar design and materials, so just to kind of give you an idea of what that building would look like. It's kind of similar to the one in Blaine. So I think with that, staff make the recommendation to approve this proposed site plan, and then you'll see here with these conditions related to the engineering and sustainability comments, entering into a site security agreement with the city, and then again, all signage is subject to separate sign permits and wouldn't be approved with this site plan. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and I believe we have folks from Kimley Horn and Riverdale Village here as well, if you have questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kroll. Commission, any questions for Mr. Kroll at this time?
Chair Schwartz?
Commissioner Knobloch?
I just have two questions. The first question is, will there be two entrances on the north side on River Rapids Drive, the new one that's proposed and the existing one that's beside for the vitamin shop?
Yep, that's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
so yeah, that's the
Part B
existing
of
one.
that question is,
Yeah.
I know that's a very busy intersection right to the northwest of that corner. Most of it is turning left, some to the right, which would be going into this area. Is there any concern from engineering regards traffic flow having another entrance that close to a busy intersection?
Yeah, it wasn't in the engineering comments that Mark provided, so we didn't really talk too much about that, or he didn't share any concerns with that. It was more related to that trash enclosure that was originally kind of proposed closer to that corner. But he didn't share any concerns there, I think, just given kind of Riverdale Village is a lot of big parking lots and internal
Yeah.
roadways that is just kind of part of that development there.
It's mainly west
Yeah.
turning anyway. But-
Yeah.
And then the second thing is I think the Chase building, like the one in Maple Grove, the one in Blaine, all a wonderful addition to the community here. Beautiful buildings. You can put them anywhere and they just pop. And it's on a main thoroughfare. It's a very good proposal, so I'm all thumbs up on this one. That's it?
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Geisler?
Mr. Kroll, just a couple clarifying questions here. So is this a lot split too, or is this all going to maintain one parcel with both businesses on it?
Yeah, it'll maintain as one parcel with both businesses, so no lot split.
Okay, so we don't have to talk about a shared access or anything like that, because effectively both businesses are on the same parcel? So they, by default, share parking, share access?
I believe so, yeah, I'm seeing head nods from Matt, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think-
Ju-
yeah.
Just wanted to clarify that,
Yep.
that we were going about that. And then as far as the internal signage, as far as I know, there's the do not enter on the kind of the northeast side there. Would they do the same thing on the southeast, kind of egress space? Assuming all that would be internal signage to the site and up to them?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, I don't recall if there is some signage there, but we could definitely do that. I know they have this striped up here, I think is existing, so they might just kind of repaint that a little bit to beef it up.
Sure.
I know this is more of like it's only wide enough for one-way traffic, and I think the way that the curb is hopefully to help give some indication that it's an exit, but I don't recall if there's an exit or do not enter sign at that entrance or at that exit.
You just don't want somebody driving in the wrong way towards the ATM, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Currently, there isn't,
Okay,
but duly noted.
okay.
And then my final one, so the sidewalk on the north side of the building there, it looks like it's just there to service the emergency exit on the north side of the building there. Is there a reason why we didn't connect it back, another 20 feet over so that you could connect to either the north side or the south side of the property?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I did talk to the applicant about that, and I think that was my preference, was to have the connection on the north of the building there versus a little further down on the south. They had shared, I think there was maybe some grade concerns that they couldn't make it ADA accessible.
Sure.
And so that's where it just kind of stops at that kind of employee emergency exit door there.
Okay,
Yep,
that's fine. Thank you.
yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Schmolke?
So two questions. Number one, so I just wanted to clarify, for the immediate time being, there is not a drive-through or drive-up ATM, correct? That's just for future that they've added it in for consideration?
So the drive-through ATM with Chase Bank would be built with this proposal, but
Okay.
there is not an existing drive-through service window on the Vitamin Shop building. So really, that drive-through aisle is not currently being used, but it now would be used for the drive-through ATM with Chase Bank.
Got it, so it's a
Yeah.
drive-through ATM, just separate, not attached to the Vitamin Shop building is what you were talking about, got it?
Yep, yeah, so
Okay.
sorry, that's kind of on this site plan, so this kind of little gray box is where that ATM would sit for
Okay, and
vehicles to
so then
access.
traffic is expected to go along the south side of the Vitamin Shop around the back, come back around the north, and then exit the parking lot. So we'll make a loop around the Vitamin Shop building.
Yeah, that's correct. So yeah, they could either choose to, once they're done at the ATM, exit here on this southeast corner.
Okay.
And this would open up to like where Sierra is in the kind of redevelopment there.
Yeah.
Or they can choose to go up along the side of the Vitamin Shop building and exit up on the kind of northeast corner of the site here.
Okay, so there is an exit already, they're just gonna enhance it or whatever they
Yep,
need to
yeah,
do.
so yeah, this
make
northeast
sense?
exit is an existing exit there,
Got it.
and then they would be adding this southeast exit.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then I apologize, the other thing, what about lighting? Because I know that the existing parking lot has lighting, so are they tearing that down? And is the whole thing kind of being remodeled? So I just don't clearly see it on the,
Yeah, maybe the applicant can talk a little bit about that. I know they had a lighting plan and it met that minimum
Okay.
1 foot candle, but yeah, I didn't have it in my slides, but.
got it, okay.
yeah, yeah.
Chase Bank has a specific security.
We'll have you come to the microphone to give your name and address for the record.
My name's Matt Lang. I'm with Kinley Horn, engineer for the project manager. So yeah, Chase Bank has specific lighting standards they have to meet for security purposes around ATMs, front of entrances. So they are gonna bring the site to comply with those requirements, as well as city requirements. So-
Perfect, thank
Yep.
you so much. That was it, thank you.
Chair Schwartz.
Commissioner Knobloch.
I have a follow-up question to like Commissioner Schmolke just brought up a very good question. In regards, the owner of the property is not Chase, but the prior or the existing owner, is that correct?
Yeah, so I believe, yeah.
Okay.
It's like Riverdale Village is the.
So the
owner.
agreement is internal to the owner with Chase in regards that they're going to ensure that that drive-through is functional and available for an exit. Is that the correct assumption? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's all, that was just a clarification, not a question, so thank
Okay,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, the question I have, I don't know what Mr. Kroll or the petitioner. The ATM, is that just an ATM? It's not a pneumatic tube back to the bank?
Yeah, that's correct. So yeah, it's not like a full teller service. They wouldn't be interacting with a person. It's really just the ATM where you're inserting your debit or credit card, pushing some buttons on the screen and getting your cash. Yep.
All right, is there anything else the petitioners would like to add before the public hearings? Okay, hearing no other information from the petitioner. At this time, I will open a public hearing in planning case 23-5, a site plan for Chase Bank at 3388 River Rapids Drive Northwest. Anyone wish to speak to this public hearing? Anyone wish to speak to the public hearing? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and limit comments to the commission.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Geisler.
Well, I'd just like to say I applaud our continuing efforts to turn seas of asphalt into productive properties and making them useful. So with that said, I would Move that in planning case 23-5, we approve the proposed site plan with the following conditions that were revised. All engineering comments be addressed, all sustainability comments be considered. The applicant enter into a site security agreement with the city. All signage is subject to 2 separate sign permits.
I'll second.
Motion by Geisler, second by Schmolke. Any further discussion? Just one other question for Mr. Kroll. We don't have any material samples or anything.
No, we don't. What they had, maybe it's a little hard to see on this screen, but this was kind of what they were showing for that material sample, were some of the blocks here on the color elevations, but no kind of hard materials.
Show your picture again.
Yeah, the picture was good too.
Oh, yeah. And then this is kind of the image from the Chase Bank in Blaine. Basically the same footprint and materials, gives you an idea of what the building would look like.
All right, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes. And this is a decision by the Planning Commission. Can be appealed to the City Council within 10 business days if someone so chooses. Otherwise, good luck. All right, our next case is planning case 23-6, a PUD amendment for Gateway Commerce Center at xxxx Gateway Drive Northwest, Phillips. Mr. Kroll.
Yeah, so here the applicant's requesting an amendment to the Gateway Commerce Center PUD, and this would be to allow an inventory lot on a 1.3 acre site where a new car dealership was proposed. And so I really just want to give a little bit of background and some context, and otherwise there isn't too much here. The site here is kind of outlined in blue. It's, again, in that planned unit development. Just a little bit of background kind of before I had started with the city, but you all had considered cases 21, 31, 32, 33 back in July of 2021. That was related to a PUD amendment, a preliminary plat, and a site plan for Walser Hyundai. And kind of through that process, it was to kind of plat and subdivide a 10-acre area into 3 different parcels with a new dealership kind of proposed on each of those lots. The lot that we're talking about tonight and kind of that original proposal was for a smaller boutique dealership, but had that not been able to be built, they had wanted some flexibility or interest in using it as an inventory lot. Kind of through that process, the franchise that they were seeking for Lot 2 was not awarded to them, and so here they want to use this site for the inventory lot, kind of for Walser Hyundai and potentially even for a car dealership that would be developed on the other site. So this is just kind of existing site. I think this was pulled from September, so I think most of this is kind of paved now at this point. But just to kind of show those 3 lots. So Lot 1 is a little over 3 acres. That's where Walser Hyundai is now open. Lot 2 that we're talking about tonight there in the middle. And then Lot 3 is about a 4.5 acre site that is currently undeveloped. So with, again, the last time this kind of was brought through in 2021, the applicant had requested some flexibility to be able to use this as an inventory lot if they weren't able to receive that smaller franchise. But because there's a change in the use, or if the change in the number of lots would still require a PUD amendment and to go through this process. And so I think staff, we had determined that this change of use still warranted the PUD amendment and kind of going through this process. For the site plan, this is the proposed inventory lot would add about 185 stalls. It would include landscaping and lighting across the site. to match the standards and kind of the layout at the Walser Hyundai site. And then we're working with the watershed district and had a proposed kind of underground filtration system on a portion of the parking lot that they're proposing. This was the landscape plan, again, kind of mimicking what's on Lot 1. So some trees and shrubs on the different parking lot islands and then kind of around the site there. So, kind of with that, there's not too much else to really describe. And so staff are recommending approval of this PUD amendment. And I think we just had a couple of conditions there as well. So happy to answer any questions, and then we do have the Phillips architects here as well, if you have any questions.
Mr. Kroll, is this going to, this amendment for this parcel, or this lot rather, is this going to change then the existing roadway out there and shorten the roadway, bringing the cul-de-sac down to the corner here of this lot? Or are they gonna leave the roadway in until the third lot is developed?
Yeah, my understanding is the roadway would stay in, and that little kind of cul-de-sac at the end would stay there until Lot 3 would be developed. On this proposal, I guess the access to this lot is through Lot 1, so they aren't adding an additional entry or exit from Lot 2 onto that roadway. But the existing roadway out there would stay until Lot 3 was developed.
Thank you. Anyone else have questions for Mr. Kroll at this time?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Geisler?
Mr. Kroll, just to confirm that while this would be developed as an extension of what we're calling Lot 1 here, it's still a separate lot.
Yeah, that's correct. And I think maybe the applicant can kind of, will be able to speak to maybe some of the decision that they had there, but that's correct. It's still maintained as a separate lot. And that was where that one condition we had where, depending on what happens with Lot 3 and in the future, if, a reciprocal easement agreement or something is needed, we'd kind of work with the applicant and make sure we had that too.
Sure. Okay, but as far as this amendment is concerned, we are not joining Lot 1 and Lot 2. They are separate as far as the city is concerned.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Chair Schwartz.
Commissioner Knobloch?
Question for Planner Corral. So if Lot 2 is a separate lot, does that infer that the filtration system underground this lot will be completely separate, or will it be attached to Lot 1?
That, maybe it would be a question for, okay. Yeah, I think the applicant will be able to address that
Okay.
question. Yeah,
I'll defer
All right.
the answer till I hear it.
yeah.
Anyone else? All right, anything the petitioners would like to add? Please come to the microphone, give your name and address for the record, please.
My name is David Phillips. I am the applicant and Walser Automotive Group's architect for this project. To start with the last question, Commissioner Knobloch, the infiltration system is designed for the added pavement. We have an infiltration system that's actually in place now for Lot 1. Lot 2 will be separate and distinct. They don't run together. Sambatech has done the engineering for this whole development. And we've received the comments from the watershed. A few technical questions came up, and then we'll have, we expect watershed approval later this month, before the end of the month.
Thank you. Wonderful.
With respect to the separate lots, we intend to keep them 3 separate lots. The Hyundai is just about done. The construction has been painful coming out of the pandemic, and it's just booming all over town. Our ACM, the metal fascia that you see, it's got the paper on it right now that'll be peeled, is 6 months behind schedule. And Hyundai won't let us open until it's done. We have a certificate of occupancy until we can finish the spring work from the city. But by keeping it separate lots, we can assign parking either way to induce another dealership. Our plans would be to have another dealership. If we combine the lot with either one, the manufacturer will not let us use it for the other competitor. So we have that flexibility with the 3 lots. We kind of expected this when we platted it as 3 lots. We were hoping to get Genesis, which is a Hyundai high-end brand. And Genesis would coordinate with Hyundai on the 2 lots with the small lot. Unfortunately, somebody named Luther got Genesis, so we wish him well.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, we are eager to get open. We actually have, I think, 40, probably not 40 yet, 30 employees on site working. We're prepping cars in our service shop. We're working in the parts department, and they're doing training with some of the salespeople. And as soon as we can get that signage up and finish that fascia, we're hoping by the end of the month we'll be fully open there, so.
Could you tell me, are the plans for development of Lot 3 to just use that cul-de-sac that's shown on this plan as the only entrance into Lot 3?
We think, and it's subject to the manufacturer, we think that we probably won't leave the road in, but we'd probably leave the Highway 10 curbside of that road in, so we don't change the drainage along the highway. And we really want to wait until we get a new plan before we decide how much of that road needs to come out. We think the curb, I call it the Highway 10, the southwest curb, we probably retain with that. So we're waiting to find out how our site plan develops on the final site before we do it. We do own that road now, as opposed to the association there. So it's part of Lot 3.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Geisler?
Mr. Phillips, just a question on the infiltration basin since you went through it with Lot 1, did you have any trouble with the watershed on that? I know that's, it's a
No.
pretty wet area, so.
It was approved, and we have technical approval on Lot 2, which would just, they had some minor calculations that the engineers talked to each other. Us architects, we're more broad stroke, the engineers have some minor things to clear up, but we'll have watershed approval, like I say, I expect within a week or so.
Perfect, thank you.
Commissioner, any other questions for the petitioner? All right, thank you. We may have more later.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, I will open a public hearing in planning case 23-6, a PUD amendment for Gateway Commerce Center at xxxx Gateway Drive Northwest, Phillips. Anyone wish to speak to this public hearing? Anyone wish to speak? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing, limit comments to the commission. Commission,
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Schmolke.
So I guess I don't have any comments about it. I think it's a reasonable request to amend it for the parking lot in lieu of losing the bid that you were looking for. And so I guess with that, I'll say in planning case 23-6, that I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the proposed PUD amendment based on the following findings and with the following conditions as stated in our packet, instead of reading through it.
Second.
We have a motion by Schmolke, second by Geisler. Any further discussion?
Chair Schwartz?
Commissioner Knobloch.
I just want to say that it's been a long time, and initially, the application, there was some trepidation, but it was a wonderful application that has come to this point. So I appreciate that the applicant has been a very good example of following detail and following this application through, that it's even better than it was, that I recollect it was a year or two ago, 3 years. Seems like 3 years. But that's all I have to say. I think it's come a long way, and it's a really good proposal, so that's it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. This is a recommendation by the Planning Commission and a decision by the City Council at their April 4th meeting. Good luck.
Thank you.
Our next case, planning case 23-7, an ordinance amendment for indoor recreation in regional shopping. Todd and Abbi Habben. Mr. Crow.
All right, yeah, so for our last case tonight, the applicant's requesting a zoning ordinance amendment to allow indoor recreation uses in our regional shopping zoning district. So that district that we're talking about is the one that's outlined kind of in the darker black line here on this map and kind of the purple color on our land use map. So it's bounded by Highway 10 to the north, Northdale Boulevard to the east, Main Street to the south, and then Round Lake Boulevard to the west there. Just to give some background on this, there was an indoor axe throwing facility under kind of the franchisee of Stumpy's Hatchet House that was interested in some vacant retail space at Riverdale Village. Kind of working with the applicant, we had determined that it would be classified as an indoor recreation use and that our zoning code doesn't actually currently permit indoor recreation in that zoning district. I think kind of given the shared ownership and district standards in Riverdale Village, there wasn't really a pathway to try to parcel out properties and rezone them to maybe general commercial or community commercial where it is permitted. And so we had advised the applicant that this ordinance amendment was probably the most viable pathway to kind of to work on that. So, and just kind of with this and some additional background outside of this, I think we're seeing in areas across the metro with different retail trends, you're seeing with a lot more online shopping, the different ways that people shop, you're seeing maybe retail stores needing less square footage than they needed in the past. And so there's kind of an opportunity with maybe more vacant retail space that you're seeing these kinds of entertainment and recreation uses in different retail centers and malls and those sorts of things. And so, I think there's this kind of background kind of ongoing broader retail trends that kind of align with what you're seeing here tonight as well. These were some images provided by the applicant just to give you an idea of kind of what Stumpy's looks like, or maybe if you're not as familiar with an indoor axe throwing facility, this kind of gives you an idea of what those lanes look like. I kind of think about it as bowling, where you're kind of with a group of friends kind of taking turns and doing a scorekeeping, but instead of rolling a bowling ball down the lane, knocking over pins, you're throwing an axe kind of over your head at this wooden target. Kind of just highlighting the notable change with this proposed ordinance. Again, it would change indoor recreation from a not permitted to a permitted use in our regional shopping zoning district. While this application is from kind of folks that are interested in the axe throwing facility, what you're reviewing tonight in the approval isn't for Stumpy's specifically, but it is a broader policy impact to allow uses like Stumpy's in this zoning district. I noted in the staff report, while we don't have a definition of indoor recreation in our code currently, staff, we've always interpreted it as businesses that are directed towards the general public that offer recreational entertainment. And so it could include indoor axe throwing facilities, bowling alleys, escape rooms, go-karts, indoor laser tag, miniature golf, indoor pickleball courts, shooting ranges, trampoline parks, and whirly ball, just as kind of a number of examples of what kind of falls under indoor recreation. Just to highlight what's currently in Coon Rapids, just again to give you some examples of indoor recreation, we have the Urban Air Trampoline Park, Grand Slam Family Fun Center, Classic Bowl, Cheapskate, the roller skating rink, and then Modern Sportsman, which is a new kind of indoor gun range and facility. So these are kind of some examples of what we currently see in Coon Rapids. And I just wanted to highlight maybe some other examples in the metro where you're seeing, again, this kind of recreational kind of entertainment uses in major retail centers. So there's the Pints and Paddle that was announced in Maple Grove, which was an indoor pickleball and courts and a beer hall. That's in their Grove shopping district. A lot of their commercial development is gone through as PUDs, so it's more a PUD zone there, but I think kind of similar to Riverdale Village and other retail centers. Ridgedale Center Mall in Minnetonka, they have the iFly indoor skydiving that you see outside of the mall. A little closer to home here in Blaine, in Northtown Mall, there's the indoor golf simulator. And then as an example, kind of near Mall of America, the Whirly Ball, which is this kind of mix of indoor go-karting and lacrosse that you're playing. So again, just kind of we're seeing this trend, I think, throughout the metro. And so this isn't kind of an oddball situation that we're seeing here. I did look at some cities that have populations similar to Coon Rapids, and then also looked at a couple of cities that neighbor us, just to kind of get a sense of where they currently allow indoor recreation as either a permitted or conditional use. And really all of this to say that in general commercial kind of areas or these more kind of regional shopping districts, really every other city has it as a permitted or conditional use. And so I think there's all this to kind of show that there's kind of a history or understanding that some of these recreational uses are compatible with retail uses. So then in terms of the amendment itself, what you all are asked to evaluate are kind of three items. So this first one is the effect of the amendment on public health and general welfare. Staff believe that this proposed amendment doesn't create any concerns related to the public health or general welfare. As I mentioned, it's currently permitted in our community commercial and general commercial districts, and we're not aware of any issues that we've had with those uses, and again, kind of feel it's compatible with broader commercial and retail areas. And even in our zoning code, how we describe the regional shopping zoning district is intended to promote large-scale commercial development, including retail, entertainment, restaurants, and other complementary uses. You're also asked to think about the effect of the amendment on present and potential surrounding land uses, and I think as kind of mentioned already, that it feels compatible to that. If you're looking at the map, all the red and blue areas that you see around regional shopping do currently permit indoor recreation uses. So it, again, is just kind of bringing this in alignment with other commercial development that surrounds Riverdale Village. And then finally, you're asked to evaluate the amendment and if it aligns with the comprehensive plan. Staff, we felt like there was policy support in our 2040 plan for this change. Kind of broadly, we make it a goal to provide distinctive commercial districts that serve community and regional consumers. And with this amendment, I think it allows some additional recreational uses here in Riverdale Village that can have that regional appeal and continue to make this a regional destination in Coon Rapids. So kind of with that, our staff recommendation is to recommend approval of this ordinance amendment, allowing indoor recreation in our regional shopping zoning district, and would amend City Code Section 11701. And we do have representatives from the application and from Riverdale Village here if you have any questions as well.
Thank you, Mr. Kroll. Commission, any questions for Mr. Kroll?
Chair Schwartz.
Commissioner Abbi.
Mr. Planner Kroll. The question I have is indoor recreation the application, it looks like a wonderful application, another entertainment service provider. The only question I have is mainly for the planning department. Can you explain the reasoning between doing a zoning ordinance change versus a conditional use, since I personally think this kind of falls more in a conditional use, that's my opinion, but other neighboring cities are considering, they have conditional uses. So maybe a little explanation or clarification why the ordinance zoning change versus a conditional use. Because there is no distinct definition in the zone for what type of business is an indoor rec.
Yeah, it looks like maybe Matt wants to address that.
Commissioner Notwag. So first of all, right now, indoor recreation is just listed in the code as a not permitted use in the regional shopping district. We could, so in order to accommodate it at this location, we really have to, change the zoning code. We did consider, whether to, when making this change, whether to make it a permitted use or a conditional use, and really concluded that because it's a permitted use in the other, some of the other commercial zoning districts, while regional shopping has some differences from community commercial or general commercial, it also has a lot of similarities, so it was maybe appropriate to make it a permitted use, and we weren't overly concerned at this location just because there is so much parking there and so many complementary uses. We weren't overly concerned about a lot of potential negative impacts associated with individual indoor recreation uses. So that was really our rationale for making it a permitted use. But we did feel that there was really no way around changing the code to accommodate it at this location.
Thank you. That's a wonderful explanation. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Geisler.
Mr. Kroll, and I know we talked a little bit on this on email here, but one of the questions I had is why we're not also including amusement centers in this change? Just for the sake, the only spot that I could find that we define amusement centers is in Title V, which is licensing. And the definition of amusement centers seem to overlap with staff's interpretation of indoor recreation. So could you help us a little bit there, or, kind of talk through a little bit of what you already provided?
Yeah, we had talked about that as well, and if we included that. And I think ultimately what we decided, given this was more an applicant kind of driven amendment and not something that we as staff kind of initiated or noticed as an issue, we just felt like the use that they wanted and that they were asking to do aligned with indoor recreation, and just wanted to keep it simple in that way. But if the commission does feel like including amusement centers in that, you're more than welcome to kind of add that as part of this amendment while we're making the change.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Geisler, I'll add to, we acknowledge there's overlap and it's a little bit odd. We also acknowledge that the license and kind of description of an amusement center that's in the licensing chapter of city code is maybe a little bit outdated. Currently, we only have one business in the city that has a license for an amusement center, and that is Grand Slam. It's really focused on more the businesses that have a mechanical component to them. So that's something a little bit farther down the road. As you may know, the city clerk's office has been looking at removing some of the outdated references in the liquor licensing section. That's kind of a next step. So we would be open to also allowing amusement centers here, but ultimately felt that just an incremental change for the time being is maybe the most straightforward.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, just to provide, the definition in Title V is including but not limited to pool tables, table tennis, shuffleboard, mechanical amusement devices, where that's the principal source of income, but not bowling alleys. So it is kind of, and I'm not saying we need to do anything with Title V, that's not our purview, but since amusement center is defined here in Title 11, My question is more of, if we consider those things indoor recreation, but they're defined elsewhere, if we're making a change, I think we should just clean it up and allow both uses personally, but we can get to that in discussion. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Casey?
So, Mr. Kroll, I think I'm looking at that zoning map that you have up. It makes sense to me it's surrounded by everything general or, community commercial. It just makes sense, and I can see the rationale for not going with a CUP. Let's just kind of blanket that purple section and, grandfather it in, so to speak, so that the next venue that comes along or applicant, has a little freer path. But it just makes sense to me, especially given trends that are happening now with other regional shopping centers, not just shopping anymore.
Anyone else? All right, is there anything the petitioners would like to add? Please come to the microphone, give your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name's Ryan Burke, 1387 Eleanor in St. Paul. Commissioners, Mr. Chair, thank you for your time. I work with NADG. We own and operate the shopping center, Riverdale Village. And just wanted to reiterate, obviously, some of the comments you've made. This does make logical sense, but we're not doing this as property owners to make the quick buck, make a change. Let's find something to stick in here. I think we've proven in the 2.5 years we've owned this through COVID, we took it over 310,000 square feet of vacant. I'm down to 50,000 square feet right now. Thanks. And this particular building that they're looking at, we've got very minimum interest, and quite frankly, after hearing some of the different codes, every user that's looked at it would need this same change, ironically. But I just want to assure you guys that this goes beyond just trying to fill one small space, that this is going on towards a trend we see. We don't have a lot of vacancy right now, but as the big boxes do downsize, as some of the mom and pops struggle, this is a huge tool to keep and revitalize the retail center, and more importantly, drive that traffic. So it's not about just filling the space, it's driving the traffic. I could put in a smaller, like, swimming pool place, we'd get 100 people a day coming in. An event, entertainment center like this, we're bringing hundreds and hundreds of people there every day. So it's a big tool to keep the rest of our businesses occupied, giving them new shopping experience. So it goes beyond just this one center, or this one building too. So, do you have other questions for me while I'm up here?
Commission?
All right. Well, thank you all.
Thank you. All right, at this time, I will open a public hearing in planning case 23-7, an ordinance amendment for an indoor recreation and regional shopping. Anyone wish to speak to the public hearing? Anyone wish to speak? Seeing none, close the public hearing and limit comments to the commission.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Schmolke.
So I don't usually talk about kind of like experiences and so forth with a lot of the applications that we see, but I have to admit that it's like when I've driven through Maple Grove before, you're going along 94, I think it is, and you see some of these recreational type facilities there. It's like, I have often thought, it's like, I wish Coon Rapids had some of that, right? It would be great because working for companies, we're always looking for venues where we can take groups of employees and so forth. So I'm very much excited to see something like this coming to Coon Rapids. So I'm just very in favor of this change.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Geisler.
I want to echo that. I think this type of change turns the retail center into a little bit of it's a destination draw, which then connects to and I might as well go shopping, and I might as well go which just further enhances the draw of the region in and of itself. Which Riverdale is already a pretty solid draw too, which is the other reason where you get complementary benefits of somebody shopping and, oh, hey, what's that? I think there's some other mini event things. I know there was a Cheers Pablo around in the Riverdale for a while. It's kind of a mini event. It's much smaller in scale. So I think this is a great thing. To the point about the amusement centers, I just want to, if we're changing the ordinance, let's include the thing that we're already kind of interpreting as that anyway, personally. If staff isn't comfortable with permitted use, I'd be fine with a conditional use, but it feels like there is a lot of definition overlap there. And if we want to attract that type of business, if a Grand Slam-like business or a Dave & Buster's-like business wanted to come into Riverdale, I don't know that wouldn't be a bad thing either. I think we would consider those as pretty well fit, considering what we're talking about. So that's my personal take on that one. I'd be interested in hearing if the commission has support or wants to discuss that, or if we just want to leave it here.
Well, my comment would be, I have no problem adding the amusement center. I think it would be a good fit. Because if Grand Slam, for whatever reason, for example, needed to relocate, right now they couldn't locate into that area without another amendment change. So as long as we're here in the action, I would say, let's go for it.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Bucciccone.
I thought I was gonna go the entire meeting without talking.
Oh, we couldn't have that.
I think we hear what you're saying. I'm not telling you it doesn't make sense, but we didn't notice changing that. We only noticed this specific issue. Now, staff can certainly bring that forward in a future meeting, and it sounds like it makes sense, and we'll address it at that time. But I can tell you that if I was a tenant that was nearby, I would want to have notice if, for instance, Grand Slam was going to come, or say I'm the person that was going to move into this building itself, and I knew that Grand Slam was going to be able to be next door, I would want to have notice of that as well. So I don't like to be the stick in the mud, even though it's my job sometimes, and I'm being the stick in the mud. I don't think it's wise to do that. We didn't notice it, and we can bring it forward in the future. It sounds like the city clerk might be on top of that already, so, sorry.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Schwartz.
If I may just finish.
Commissioner Geisler.
Yeah, I would just say, if we're gonna come back at it again, let's get better definitions lined up of what these things mean, especially if, regardless of whether it's in 11 or 5 or everywhere else. I personally think if we're specifically calling out licensing requirements in 5, those should be individual line items in 11, just so that it's clear that, yep, that's permitted, that's not, and you gotta go get a license over here for it. There should be some alignment there. But that would be my ask if we're gonna come back to it later.
I think that this is not germane here as much, Mr. Chair, but I think what Mr. Brown and I have talked about for years now is we'd like to take on the code as a whole. I think there's some things that need to be cleaned up, and I agree with Commissioner Geisler that some consistency would be good. It's on our list of things, but, people keep building stuff, and we like that, so.
Thank you. Commissioner Knobloch.
I just wanted to say some kudos and acknowledgement should be given to the developer, being right on top of it, being the closest to a lot of these unique developments, and the community has developed a lot from their business insight and the development of this area, that Riverdale has been quite a success. So the acknowledgement of that development, there's a little bit of, like I said, kudos and trust to be taken account of with the developer in this matter. And I think the input of having development and potential other entertainment indoor uses, indoor rec, is a feasible and a good idea to consider.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Geisler.
I would move that in planning case 23-7, that we approve an ordinance allowing indoor recreation in the regional shopping zoning district and amending city code section 11-701.
Second?
Motion by Geisler, second by Schmolke. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. It's a recommendation by the Planning Commission and will be introduced by the City Council at their April 4th meeting. Good luck. All right, moving on to other business. Mr. Kroll.
Yeah, so for our April Planning Commission, there's a couple of items. There's a rezoning and site plan for a kind of 8-unit development along University Avenue. There's a plat for the Silver Star Car Wash, if you recall. They were building out a portion of the site and wanted to sell off the other portion for future development, so we do have that plat for Silver Star. And then we have a site plan resubmittal for Take 5 oil change. There's some changes, some slight changes to the building design and things that we wanted to bring back through the process for you.
All right,
And
thank
what
you.
was the first thing you mentioned, Mr. Kroll?
Yeah, it would be a rezoning. There's a current kind of low-density residential 2 site, kind of an old single-family home, kind of surrounded by commercial. It'd be a rezoning for an 8-unit housing development.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, I'll just make a quick comment. I noticed that Esmeralda's Mexican opened, I believe it was Monday, maybe Tuesday. I was in there. Anyway, I was in on the second day that they were open and had lunch there, and food was very good. They did a nice job there, and well, glad to see another Mexican restaurant in the city. Anyone else with anything?
And Sierra's open now, did I understand?
I believe that their sign
tomorrow?
I saw said grand opening was like April 4th or something like that.
Yeah, I believe this Saturday they have a grand opening kind of party celebration. I think they have some giveaways and some different stuff. Yeah, on Saturday. So
Yeah.
Nothing more on Amazon's grocery store coming back?
no, we haven't heard anything.
We haven't really heard anything. They obviously, as reported in various media outlets, continue to have a lease there, but their projects, not only in this region but elsewhere, are just on pause right now.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else with anything?
Move to adjourn?
Second?
Motion by Geisler, second by Casey. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.